Hey guys, so today I'll be reviewing the book Dear Martin. Dear Martin is a book about a boy called Justice who grew up in a bad part of Georgia, right, where there was gang violence, crime, drugs, alcohol, all those type of things. But he was able to leave that area and he went to a different high school in Georgia, and it was a really good high school. Um, but when he went there, it was just him, his best friend Manny at the time, and the rest of the school was just white kids, right? At the beginning of the story, though, he talks to us about his experience with racial inequality. There was this one incident that he ran in with the cops, and he was racially abused just because of his color. He was trying to help out a friend, and the cops thought that he was kidnapping the girl, and they abused him. They didn't hear out his story, and they just arrested him and took him to jail. But that never left him, right? He continued the whole story thinking about that, and every time a racial slang or like a racial quote was said, right, that offended him or offended the black community in general, he remembered and he looked at his wrists and he saw handcuffs because that's what it felt like. He felt like although Martin Luther King had done a lot for the black community and their rights, he felt like there was still something holding them back. There was still something restraining them from like their full rights. People were still saying the things that they were saying now, and to them they were okay. To them it was okay, right? There was this kid in his school called Jared, and he used to say many racist things all the time, and he never felt that he was saying anything racist. He was ignorant to the fact. There was a quote that he said, "It's not fair that that Justice got into the college before me, right? It's just because he's black, they want the minority, right? He assumed that Justice didn't deserve to get into that school because he's black. He thought that he was stupid, and Jared, the white guy, he thought that he was smarter than Justice just because he was white. So Justice takes us along his whole journey, and he shows us through his perspective of all the racist and uh, in, in, unequal things that people were saying and doing. You but throughout the book, he was also doing this experiment called Dear Martin. For him, for Justice, Martin Luther King was such an influential person. And it was Martin Luther King was an influential person for the whole black community. He got them their rights, and Justice wanted to sort of follow in his footsteps. Right? He wanted to do everything that Martin Luther King would have done if he was alive today. Whenever there was violence, he tried to think about it. He tried to stay calm, and he didn't try to fight back. Although it didn't always work, and I don't think that's what Justice was trying to get out of the experiment. I think he was just trying to help his generation, help society in general. I don't think he was just trying to become a better person in like what's it called, personality wise. I think he was just trying to do what's right for our generation to continue evolving and developing, because racial inequality is still an issue. But throughout the book, he has sort of, I think of them as journals, but in the book they're written as notes or letters to Martin Luther King, and he tells them about experiences that he had. He'll be like, "Oh, dear Martin, this happened to me. Jared said this. He just thinks I'm stupid because I was black. I tried to be calm, and I know that's what you would have done, but it's getting really difficult to do that." And he sort of reflects on his experience, and that goes throughout in the whole book. For me, though, the best part about this book was how Nick Stones didn't censor any part of it, right? Uh, if you read this book, you're gonna find swear words, the N word. You're gonna hear about violence in quite a bit of detail. You're gonna hear all of that, right? You're gonna hear of drinking stories, like you're gonna hear stuff like that, right? That maybe isn't the best suited for a 10 or 11-year-old. Okay, maybe you should be 16, 17 to read this book. But I feel like it's that fact that she didn't censor it that made the book so powerful. You know, in books now, it's very rare that you find a book that has swear words or has violence in it to the extent that it has in this book, right? Most authors think that it takes away from them. It's a bad thing to to put that in their book. But just the fact that she didn't censor it made it so much stronger. It made the message so much stronger to the reader, to me, right? I felt like this is actually a real problem. These are things that I've heard before. I can connect to these. I've heard people say this, you know? It's not something that she's made up, and it's not something fake. So it was really powerful to me that she didn't censor any of it, and I really liked it. For me, I would recommend this book to pretty much anyone, you know? Black, white, Mexican, Asian, anyone read this book. It's a great book. I truly did love it, and how detailed and not detailed at the same time, if you get what I mean. Like, it had so much detail and meaning to it if you dug into it, but at the same time, just reading it from, like, literally, it wasn't the most detailed book, right? And the fact that there was just this underlying message was amazing. I truly did enjoy it. So I would recommend this book to anyone and everyone. Maybe, like, if you're a bit older, maybe 16, 17, I think is the greatest age to fully take this book in, you know, and fully understand Justice's experience, because that's sort of his age, so you can relate a bit more. A rating, though, for this book, I feel like would be 10 out of 10, 100%, no question asked. This was the best, or not the best, but this was one of the best books I've ever read in my life. Thank you very much.